Hello, welcome to Geeking Out with Shad. It's very interesting because I drove my truck this morning because I got to fuel it up and I'm doing a trip next weekend to Cleveland to go ride their Ray's Indoor Bike Park. So, which is funny because this tank of gas will definitely be what I use to go on that trip because I don't drive this thing on a day-to-day basis. So it's kind of funny. But anyway, what I noticed is I always talk about the guessometer on my Chevy Bolt EUV and how inaccurate it is. So I'm going to start my truck. I just didn't want to just sit here and senselessly idle while I'm doing this video. So I'll start my truck and I'll show you what it says, because it started out at I think 42 miles. I literally drove 2 miles and now it shows 36 miles. If you can see it, it's kind of hard to see through the phone, but yeah, it went from 42 miles to 36 miles in like a 2-mile drive. So these, range estimates of how much you have until you run out of fuel or run out of battery just aren't that accurate, not even on a gas vehicle. So I found that interesting, and I have like maybe an eighth of a tank, probably a little less than an eighth of a tank. So I'm pretty sure 36 is being generous. I just don't think I have 36 miles, because this is generally when the light comes on, and usually when the light comes on, I have like 25 miles left. This is a pickup truck, so it's much less efficient. I know I've had some small cars where when the fuel light comes on, I still have like 60 miles or 50 miles. Well, that's because it didn't use much fuel. But this thing, when that fuel light comes on, it's like, I need a gas station now, right? Like, it's kind of scary. So I just wanted to talk about that and kind of reiterate this thing of what I've learned in my EV is to not go by the amount of miles it says left. I mean, it's nice to have, I would say, but I still call it the guessometer. I've heard it called that in other media. I think it was Car and Driver where I got the term from or something, because it is just not that accurate and it's not something to depend on. Definitely look at your gauge or how much battery you have left and go by that. And that's what I've always done with fuel burning cars, is I've always just looked at the gauge and I'm like, wow, I'm like at less than an eighth of a tank. I better get gas, right? Like duh, right? So keep that in mind. These things just are not all that accurate. They got to take in factors. And yes, it's winter time, it's snow, and even gas powered cars are a lot less efficient in the cold. They got to warm up, they use gas trying to heat up the engine, all that stuff. People tend to sit around and idle a lot more, like I'm doing right now, which I don't like to do. And then that they are less efficient. They're just not as less efficient as a EV. EVs, everything has to come from the battery, as to where gas powered vehicles, once the engine warms up, that heat is natural. Like, there's no extra neat juice except for running the fan or whatever that is needed to warm the car. So that's kind of one of the benefits of having a gas powered motor, is they get hot and then that heat can be used to heat the cabin and all that other stuff, unlike EV where you literally have to use electricity to generate heat. So that's like probably the biggest reason why there's a big discrepancy between the two as far as efficiency in the cold. Yes, batteries are less efficient in the cold, which also means that the battery has to get warmed up by the battery itself and be in that ideal operating temperature. I think these kind of issues will slowly get solved. I know a heat pump makes a big difference, stuff like that in EVs, but most EVs don't come with a heat pump. The more expensive ones do. That makes a big difference. Cool. So go by your gauge. In an EV, go by how much battery you have left. Get used to what you have left. Like when you have less than a quarter of a battery left, how much more driving can you do around before you run out? Like, just go by that. I mean, and you can use the miles remaining left, but I wouldn't rely on that. Sweet. I appreciate your support for my channel. Please like and subscribe. Peace.